Teachers, what's the weirdest thing a student answered to "Tell me a fun fact about yourself"? I teach middle school, this one still takes the cake, that his mom and dad have the same parents. I asked him to clarify because I didn't understand what he was saying and he said, I only have one set of grandparents, they had the same parents. I quickly moved to the next student so no one else would realize that this kid just told the class that his parents were siblings. I talked to him about it the next day in private and he said that he got it mixed up. His parents don't have the exact same parents, they shared a dad. I felt so much better when the mom called me to let me know her elderly stepfather married her husband's elderly mother. Still weird, but much better. My mom married her brother-in-law. That was always confusing when I started telling people as a kid. Opposite side of the classroom, but on day one of class, our professor spent most of the time talking about himself, his mental health and how he was friendly with students. While he didn't say anything specifically creepy, the more he talked, the more put off I was. It just seemed deeper than a get to know you as the first time I'm meeting you speech should have gone. It was an intro to research class and I already had research experience, so I got permission to waive it and dropped the class. Later learned he killed his previous TA girlfriend before killing himself. Student told me that there is a chapter dedicated to him in a dental surgery textbook because of a very rare disorder that he had as a child. I may still have that essay. My brother had something like this. When he was somewhere around 9 or 10 years old, he had to have 12 teeth surgically removed. He just had too many growing too quickly. It was so crazy that the oral surgeon apparently negotiated a deal with my father. The surgeon will completely pay for my brother's surgery in exchange for taking a couple of extra x-rays and lots of photos to be published in an academic journal of some sort. Taught elementary school the past few years. One kid told me he was a dragon when he was born but changed into a human as he got older. He was absolutely convinced and couldn't be persuaded. Kid in my kindergarten class said, "My pee-pee fell off at Disneyland." I did not ask any follow-up questions. A student, not a teacher, but once we were going around the circle during percussion camp in the front assembly and my teacher goes, "Hello everyone, my name is," and I have shit my pants as an adult. Definitely one of the weirder ones I've heard. I'm not a teacher, but this guy in my class named Shane has this medical condition that causes him to grow tons of hair at an early age. Full beard in middle school, he would say, "I'm Shane and I'm very hairy." He could say, "My name is Shane, but my friends call me Harry." I was an ESL teacher in Indonesia and a student once told me every morning she cleaned the shit on her bed. I asked her to clarify, worried she had a serious digestive issue. She answered, "I brushed my teeth, washed face, and cleaned bed shit." Bed sheet. I remember one class had to make posters of something that meant a lot to them. Most drew pictures of their family with mom, dad, sister, brother, etc. labeled on them. Some drew their pets or something. Some drew BTS, the usual stuff that you would expect. One kid's paper just had a huge picture of a hand flipping someone off with the word piss in huge letters across it. I was like, what the F, Shakira? It took me a moment to realize that she had meant to write peace, but spelled it using phonetics from Bahasa. Also had to explain that the peace sign has the palm outwards. Not a teacher, but I was a helper in a middle school classroom. A young girl who seemed uninterested said with no hesitation that she can chug an entire bottle of beer. She got expelled later that year for keeping drugs in her locker. That he had been to juvie multiple times and is currently on probation. Then he put up his pants enough that everyone could see his ankle momser. That was something. My dad clogged the toilet this morning and that's why I'm feeling frustrated. 5-year-old child. I would say the question was, "How are you doing this morning?" But I could barely keep from laughing out loud. I teach ESL and every lesson we start a class by sharing something good that happened to us over the last week or so. Needless to say, kids share the most random things ever. I have many weird stories because of that. We enforce the rule that they need to share good things so they don't start one-upping each other over whose grandma had the worst death. LOL. One day a student said, "I was riding my bike over the weekend when I fell." I could see where it was going, but didn't have enough time to enforce the rule when he just spat out, "I fell over a wired fence and cut my neck. It just kept gushing blood, a lot of blood." I reminded him that we were only sharing good news when he said, "It's good because I'm still alive." I had a good laugh and agreed, but the damage was done. Every kid after him wanted to share about the most horrific injury they had or witnessed. In the context of having students introduce themselves one by one to a new boy in a small high-class school, a girl said her parents got her a nose job and a boob job. Not a teacher, but in 3rd grade, we would do this weekly "how was your weekend" sort of thing, where we would sit in a circle and share. This one girl casually goes, "I found out that my biological father didn't want me," in a super nonchalant tone and everything. I still remember the awkward tension. When I was in my 1st year at university, my law and society professor made each student get up, say his/her name, and tell why they picked law school. Well, a guy got up, said his name, and the professor interrupted him by asking, "Annan, are you related to X?" The guy said, "Yes, professor, he's my grandfather." Then the professor got excited and started talking about what great of a guy X is and that he haven't heard of him in years. Then the professor asked how he was. Annan replied, "He's dead, sir." The whole class was trying to hold their laughter. It pretty much broke the class that first day. During an introductory activity for my new class, a boy, age 9, got up and said, "My dog has to wear a cone on his head because dad had his bollocks cut off." We did one of those 2 truth, 1 lie bits. Girl stands up and says, "I've never been out of the country. I'm a twin. I love playing sports." I know this girl beforehand and knew she didn't have a twin, so I picked that one. No, she had a conjoined twin that died in utero and had to be surgically removed, and she's now missing the last vertebrae on her spine. Showed us the scar and everything. Apparently the lie was the first one she has been to Mexico. I had a student say a similar thing. 1. I really like reading books. 2. I had a stroke 3 years ago. 3. I'm a triplet. This was the first few days at a new school for me, and his twin sister was in my class, so he's a twin, right? No, they are triplets, but his brother is in a different school because he's incredibly smart. This kid was in a special program 1 day a week because he was too smart, so his brother must have been a genius. His sister just sat there like, "Yeah, one brother is a genius and this does brilliant, I'm just me." She was a fantastic kid but had a lot of self-esteem issues for obvious reasons. The lie was that he liked reading books. True that he had a stroke. Less awkward than my situation, we went on a field trip with another class and befriended a girl. When we got back, I tried to sit with her at lunch. It took almost a week to realize she was an identical twin and I had been sitting with her twin the whole time. She was known as the friendly, approachable one, and her twin was known as being kinda the bitchy one. I ended up being BFFs with her twin. She's so unapproachable initially that I wonder how many friends she made by people mistaking her for her more friendly sister. Not me, but my brother. He told the teacher, "Last night my family ate beaver for dinner." I was much older and had left home by then. The class laughed. The teacher accused him of lying. The principal was brought into this and my mother had to go in for a meeting. She queued them up one side and down the other because we had a cousin who was a trapper and had sent a batch of beaver thighs for the family to enjoy. Although my brother was telling the truth, he told me later that he did say that for the effect, disrupting the class. For those who don't know, beaver is a double entendre for a woman's genitals. I've had my hand up a sheep's bum, shocked me slightly. Child of a farming family, helping with lambing season. Someone in class once told everyone about how his grandparents were arrested for keeping a bunch of adopted children in cages. He said that he used to play with the kids when he was young, but he was too young to understand that the conditions they were in weren't normal. They kept kids in cages and locked in rooms for years before they were discovered and arrested. Yep, fun fact. I have 2 thumbs on this hand. I'm raising cockroaches in my closet to sell to the reptile shop. These quotes come from different kids in my class. It wasn't weird but actually cute and funny. I was teaching 5th grade and this kid, white as paper, goes, "My name is, but you can call me LeBron." He had an obsession with LeBron James and I did in fact call him LeBron whenever I wanted to get his attention. Great kid. Not a teacher, but a few years ago on first day of school, this kid in one of my classes casually answered, "I have a restraining order on my dad." I know a lot about medieval torture equipment. A guy in my class introduced himself by telling us how he decided he wanted to study philosophy because one day he was really high peeing in the street and he saw a couple of people walking and he wondered what they were doing. So he realized his passion was wandering. He dropped out like 2 months later. I said my dad steals cars. It was something my parents always told us growing up as a joke. The teacher just laughed and said, "That's nice." I was in one of the first small required classes for my teaching degree, and everyone in the class was studying to teach. It was day 2 or 3, and we were doing a get to know you activity where we share something about ourselves. I don't remember the exact question, but it had something to do with what you regret or take back. A guy came in late when almost everyone has answered the question, and the professor asked him the question, and he thought for a moment and said, "I regret letting my friend talking me into dropping acid." The class was silent for a good 20 seconds until the professor said maybe next time we only share things that are legal. I hadn't seen him in any other teacher classes since. Still laugh about it to this day. Not a teacher, but I just did a first aid course. During introductions, say your name and one fact about yourself. Dude says proudly he once had over 300k of unpaid parking tickets. I'm a teacher from the UK, form tutor to a year 7 class, 11-year-olds. To get to know each other on the first day, I had them take it in turns to say their name, which primary school they've come from, and an interesting fact, like favorite food or color. We get to the last kid in class. His fact is that he has 6 fingers on one hand. Coolest kid ever. Laugh out loud. That's like my brother. He was born with 6 fingers on each hand, but he had them removed as a baby. When he found out around age 10, he got so mad because he said he could have been really cool and really fast at typing. Not a teacher, but this happened when I was 17 at school camp during a bonding exercise. Teacher: tell us 2 truths and 1 lie about yourself, and we have to guess the lie. Weird kid: I play PlayStation, I like Doritos, and I'm an alcoholic. The teacher: the lie is you are an alcoholic. Weird kid: got you, I play Xbox. My god, the look on the teacher's face. I tried to make a conversation with a 6th grade boy who didn't have any friends in my class. I asked him what music he listens to and he said mukbang soundscapes. If you don't know, mukbang is when people eat a ridiculous amount of food in one setting. Not a teacher, but the daughter of one. My dad had a student tell him during the fun fact question in detail about how his goldfish died that morning and how he experimented on their corpses. He had pictures on his phone of the skin off and the intact skeleton next to it. He's a successful taxidermist now, so silver linings, I guess. I had a student tell me that sometimes his dad got drunk and asked his mom for things. As I was starting to tell him he didn't need to elaborate any further, he continued with, like soup, and he yells it like, soup! It took every bit of restraint to not laugh. It's been years and years since that happened, but I still laugh when I think about it. Okay, so I had psychology back in the spring semester before COVID hit, and I sat next to a girl who I was good friends with from high school. Professor asked her for a fun fact and she said, I like to watch people get cut open. She obviously said it for that fact, but she cleared it up by saying she liked watching videos of people getting plastic surgery because it's satisfying to watch. Even though I'm a professor, nothing that's ever been revealed by this question has ever been as awkward or uncomfortable as an occasion that happened when I was still a student. This was when I was in my FMA program for creative writing. If you've never been in an art program before, it probably won't surprise you to learn that they can attract some weird personalities. It was the first day of a fiction workshop, and the professor decided that he wanted us to all share something interesting about ourselves, and for some reason, one girl, Ashley, decided that this would be a good opportunity to tell us about her long history of drug abuse and the equally long period of mental psychosis she went through as a result of it. She didn't do this as a quick answer either, but as a long drawn-out list of every single drug she had experimented with, followed by a catalog of every single delusion she suffered as a result. The only one I can remember now is that at one point she became convinced she was a millionaire and her family was hiding her money from her. All of this was delivered in a monotone monologue with her eyes glazed over that lasted at least 5 minutes, which was met at the end with a long awkward silence before the professor said, "Well, that was definitely something interesting. and moved on to the next person. I had a similar instance with a mature student in my first year of uni. If you wanted to be a course rep, you had to stand up in front of the lecture hall, 300 odd people, and do a mini presentation on yourself and why you should be voted in. Most people were normal, but this one woman stood up and immediately launched into a detailed list of all mental disorders she has. Bipolar is one I remember, and how difficult her life is. I might have been sympathetic if she hadn't called all of her fellow classmates idiotic children a week before for not believing her anti-vaxxer propaganda. Mind you, she was maybe 28, 29, so not really mature, but Jesus, did she have the social skills of a hermit. I'm a student, but a kid in my class said that he loves chicken nuggets, then sat down and didn't say anything to anyone else for a month. I have such admiration, yet confusion for him. Not a teacher, but on the first day of 9th grade, we had to form a circle and say one thing about ourselves that we thought was unique. When it was this dude's turn, let's call him Mike, Mike stands up and says in a really serious tone, goes, "My mom and dad grow weed." His house got raided the next day and his dad got arrested. I don't ask for a fun fact, but on the first day I always ask, what's your most recent obsession? Low stakes, building affinity networks, etc, etc. In my first semester, a student said air, as in oxygen. One guy, I love rape. Sometimes I rape, sometimes me and my friends like to get together and listen to rape. Some of my favorite rappers include Tupac, Dr. Dre, Eminem, Biggie. My favorite rape song is... English was not his first language. He had us in the first half, not gonna lie. I have 17 piercings, but only 6 are readily visible. I was teaching a 10th grade honors English class once, and this pleasant young woman busted out the C word. I hadn't had any trouble with her whatsoever, so I was a bit shocked. The whole class went dead silent. I told her she couldn't use that word in class, and she was confused as to which word I was referring to. Finally, I said the C word. She repeated it and then admitted she didn't know there was anything wrong with it because her parents use it at home all the time. The rest of the class let her know it was bizarre that she was using it. Related to that story, I worked with an Aussie who would say the C word all the time, including to customers. We co-supervised a restaurant together and he was 15 years older than me. Super nice guy, hard worker, beloved by staff, cared a great deal about his work and making the customer experience the best possible. Also used the C word like every other sentence. He used it like an exclamation point. Well, C word, we're out of the forks. I eventually had to tell him he couldn't say it to customers because it was clearly making them uncomfortable. He was surprised, said the word was like saying shit. I countered with, well, we probably shouldn't be saying shit to the customers either. He did stop using the word with customers but continued behind the scenes. I just got used to it. My first year as an earnest and ideological teacher in a very rough underserved area, I got all the students in a circle on the first day to talk about what we've done that summer. I pointed to a student who had been engaged with me before class and said, "What did you do this summer that could inspire us?" His answer, "I did the last 2 months of sentence for stealing a car." I hadn't expected that, so I pointed to another student and said, "Okay, that's great. Let's talk about what you did this summer." That student said, "Yes, I had such a good summer. I went to camp and," laughing, let me stop lying. I did the last 2 months of sentence with that guy because I stole that car with him. I'm a trainer at the bank and I've learned some really interesting things about my colleagues doing icebreakers. One guy used to be in a pretty successful metal band. Another can solve a Rubik's Cube in under 2 minutes. Yes, I made him prove it. One woman was a professional pianist for a while and another can read tarot cards. I'm seriously thinking of putting on an employee talent show. Not a teacher, but a guy in a handful of my high school classes used to always say he met Ron Jeremy if the class was doing 2 truths and a lie. He wasn't lying and he would always show the class the picture they took together. Maybe not weird, but one I will always remember the boy who wrote, "I like chewing bubblegum and drinking out of a water bottle." I also had another boy who said, "I always say I'm tired even when I'm not." Hi, I'm Dorian and coming to uni is the only time I'm allowed out because I'm under house arrest for attempted murder. First year university student. First year! I work with preschoolers, 3 to 5 age group. One day we had the kids go around and tell us the one thing that made them special. Most were pretty normal. I'm really good at drawing, I have two big sisters, etc. And then I get to this one little girl. Super cute and sweet, looks me dead in the eyes and goes, "I've been around forever. I've seen the whole world and I know everything." Dead serious. Super creepy. When I pressed her, she couldn't really find the words to explain, but kept talking about how she came from the sand and was frustrated that she couldn't say it better. I didn't used to believe in past lives, but now I'm not so sure. I had a student who has an identical twin brother 2 years younger than him. His dad was a pro athlete who had the money to freeze an egg after splitting. His wife then carried both at separate times. When I first moved to Japan, I asked an older English language student, "Tell me about yourself." He proceeded to tell me that he grew up in Hiroshima and was out of town when the bomb hit, then moved to Nagasaki, and then was working in a canning factory far enough outside the blast radius to survive. I guess some survivors were sent there. I came out of that first lesson and went to the teacher's room, and the other teachers asked if that was the story. None of them knew if that was true, but said he has been telling it for 20 years the first time he meets a new teacher to make them uncomfortable. First grade student told me that she liked spending time with her dad's special friend more than her mom because the special friend bought her things in exchange for not telling mom about her. Fast forward 2 months to parent-teacher conferences, and I'm sitting at the table knowing dad is cheating on mom and mom has no clue. And dad has no clue that I knew. On the first day of 6th grade in my math class, the teacher was having every student introduce himself and tell him if they went by a nickname. This one kid requests to be called the Surgeon General in a confusing attempt at humor. He thought it was pretty funny, we all laughed at how weird it was, but there was no actual thought put into the joke as he was just being random. But the teacher remembered this, and whenever the kid acted out in class, the teacher would refer to him as Mr. Surgeon General when reprimanding him, much to the kid's embarrassment. I had my student ask what they wanted to be after they graduated. A girl who sat near the back and was a little more edgy was up next to answer, and she looked around and said, "I want to be a mortician, because living people are the worst to work with. The dead don't talk back to you, they don't demand things, I'm in control." And nobody really spoke to her for the rest of the 15-week class, except me by default.